So this will be response to multilingual k under underscore k dot. On the video, I'm an anti-natalist, but I'm not vegan. I mean, this is sort of a topic that I like. I think it's always like, you're gonna be inconsistent if you're not either one. Like you just keep. It's just like the promotalist, anti-natalist thing, in my opinion. You, if the principle is suffering is negative and it should be prevented, and birth is the root of all suffering, then yeah, birth should be prevented, and animals are basically sentient, so it's sentient suffers, so sentience should be prevented, and if you're not vegan, then you're paying for the breeding of animals, so you're against breeding, but at the same time you're paying for the breeding. It doesn't make any sense. And uh, if you're a vegan and you're for like, yeah, it's okay to have a kid, then that's fucked up, because the kid will the life of it's unnecessary suffering, right? You are vegan because to prevent unnecessary suffering, right? So life is unnecessary. You don't need, there's no necessity to create more human beings. And they're even you first of all, you can't guarantee that they'll be vegan, and even if they are, they're still going to cause all this harm. So yeah, why are you for that? You should be against that too. So it's the same thing. So let's listen to. And over here, the vegan equilibrium commented that we're actually frugivores like our great ape cousins. Long term meat consumption leads to much higher rates of heart disease, and there's no reason you can't be vegan. Yeah, that's one of the things. There's no, you can't justify it. You have to recognize it that uh, it's unnecessary harm, and we should, just uh, reduce it as much as we can in our lives. And but yeah, we're frugivores. We're like basically fruit eaters. You know, sugar. All the carbs. Basically, that's what uh, the glucose and fructose is what every cell in our body runs on. So ripe fruit from the trees. Yep, that's the best habitat for best diet for a human being. But yeah, you have to recognize that, oh, it's not feasible. That's why we have all these complex carbohydrates, blah blah. But it doesn't matter. The point is, it's unnecessary suffering and it should be prevented.
Slave mine at the time, and this my response to the vegans commented me on my YouTube channel. The reason
He says my English level is not at grade 10 level and I'm autistic. So yeah, it doesn't matter. It's fine. We you know we can understand.
Why I couldn't the reason why I made the last video about what are my thoughts about vegans, because the topic of vegan is hard for me to explain.
Wait a second. Vegan equilibrium says there's no food chain, there's a food web, and appealing to what is natural is a logical fallacy. Yeah, he's right. So multilingual K-Dog comments that vegan is a new concept to me. I've not met anyone vegan before, except you and Benedictines the vegan. There are a lot of vegan or anti-natalists. I'm not a vegan, but I feel guilty about coming to this world too. I eat less meat nowadays. Yeah, it's like reduce as much as you can, and recognize that, hey, this is unnecessary. I can, instead of doing this, instead of buying this, I can buy something else which causes least amount of harm as possible as you can. So says something about Steve Brown. He says this is a hard topic to explain. Let's see.
Don't get me, don't get me wrong. That don't get me wrong. That just because it's natural, it does not mean it's good. Anything. There are a lot of things that is natural is bad.
Vegan equally reviewing comments. Antinatalism is about reducing suffering and not supporting or participating in procreation of any species. You're literally paying people to breed and harm animals when you buy animal products. Therefore, you're contradicting antinatalism. Yeah, that's it's the truth. Yeah, you can't. It's it's like, you know, once you the same as when I like when I make the argument for pro-mortalism, it's the same, right? You perpetuation of life is perpetuation of suffering. So for if you're for life, then yeah, none of this shit matters because you're for perpetuation of suffering. So you should be for non-existence to end the suffering. So yeah, it's you're being inconsistent basically, because if your principle is suffering is bad and it has to be prevented, but because it's bad and you know it's bad and you can feel it's bad and you know you wouldn't want to experience it and you know that it has to end, then yeah, you have to be pro-modalist. But anyways,
Same as breathing, and at the same time, when we ever since we came into this world, we we, we feel guilty. We feel bad for the prey. When the predators hunt the prey and the prey run away from the predator, we feel.
yeah, but we're not that. We're we we didn't evolve to, you know, nothing about our physiology says that we evolved to eat meat. No.
We feel bad about it, but at the same time, it's just nature, I guess. Just nature and what else?
And yeah, nature is brutal and it's unsympathetic to the suffering of all these innocent animals.
It's just it's food that work, and we feel guilty of consuming stuff. Anytime when we eat or drink something, we have to take the life out.
I mean, there's a picture he uploaded, vegans, the epitome of malnourishment. This is not. Again, you can. The number one cause of death to human beings is for birth, and then it's a heart disease. You know, fat, animal, protein. So this is
Out of anything.
not a good argument.
Plants and animals. We are living in a sick game. Another.
Yeah, it's a sick game. We should be saying that, yeah, let's not perpetuate it more. Let's find ways to end it as gracefully as we can. End the suffering. For good.
At the same time.
He says that even plants suffer too. No, plants don't suffer. Again, they're not. There's no good reason to believe that they're sentient in any. Like, they're not sentient. They don't have a central nervous system. They don't have a brain. Like, and it wouldn't be like, you know, evolutionary beneficial for them to have that. I mean, this is, and there's no screaming and crying and, you know, in the sense that there's no, you can't detect it, that you can't observe that, hey, the carrot is being is in a state of suffering. There's no way to detect that, and if they were, then obviously we would have been able to, because we get into it and we will find out, oh, this is causing this much suffering to the being, to this cat, to this cat. Like, we understand that if a cat is run over, yeah, it's gonna cause suffering. but we run over a carrot, no, we won't say it caused suffering, because, like, come on. It's just, I mean, there's no brain. Brain is the creation of sentience. The neurons create sentience, consciousness, awareness.
That's one thing we feel guilty as anti-natalists coming into this world. Hang on a second. Are you talking? So, anyways,
Wait a second,
someone.
wait a second. What was that? Yeah, Illinois. So he uploads a like shows a picture of a comment. Vegans talk all the time about veganism, but don't mention a word about fair trade. According to their logic, they shouldn't use smartphones or wear T-shirts made in China. No, it's about reducing as much as you can and recognizing the fact that, yeah, the game of life is, it just its exploitation is a requirement. You can't just live without exploiting, but that doesn't mean you don't have to reduce it while you're living. Like the overt ones, the simple ones that are right in front of you, you have to recognize them that they're unnecessary, and you should be uh, for not causing unnecessary harm. Yeah, we should be anti-exploitation. Like capitalism is bullshit and all of that. There's no way to live in this world without causing suffering. Yeah, that's why you should be promoted this. Like, yeah, let's end the this blight of animals torturing each other and scheming and all this cheating and all this other crap. Let's just end it for good.
Anyways, someone's talking to me. People go fast here. And talking about veganism. There is a difference between become a vegan and anti-natal.
It doesn't matter. That doesn't mean you be shouldn't be a vegan or you should be it doesn't matter the difference. The point is recognizing the principle that unnecessary suffering, life is unnecessary suffering, and by consuming these products you're creating life or sentient life, billions of them every year for your taste pleasures, and it's not a good thing. It's a negative thing.
I don't become anti-natalist by vegan. I become anti-natalist by seeing the world is overpopulated and how the world is, how sick the game the world is. It's not just in the human life. I see it in the animal level too, but I see it mostly by human.
I mean, there's no difference in terms of the suffering. I would say they experience intense suffering than humans. So yeah, we should be more for saving the animals. That's a good reason to live. Yeah, let's save the animals. Let's stop their plight of uh, endless cycle of struggle and torture and death for no good reason. Good. That's a good reason to live, to end that.
And I'm crossing the street here. Vegan is different from anti-natalism.
That's irrelevant. You should be an anti-natalist and you should be a vegan and you should be a pro-mortalist. These are different questions, but that doesn't. These are different topics, but you still have to recognize what's the principle. What are you voting for? If you're against procreation of sentient beings, then you should be vegan. because why? It causes unnecessary suffering. And if you're against the suffering of animals for taste pleasures and unnecessary exploitation of these animals, yeah, then you, for all this our crap of clothes and all this other crap, you know unnecessary exploitation of human beings, yeah, then you should be antinatalist and for ending the game. So it's about the principles.
Yeah, animal has
And it's not like, oh, you have to recognize it and say yes, it's wrong what I'm doing. And it's you should try to reduce it as much as you can, 2 days a week, 4 days a week, one meal at a time, rationally think about it and find ways to mitigate know the unnecessary suffering.
different digestive system, different body and and I got a vegan comment me unfamiliar terms, and I tell because I don't think it's not how you debate people, but anyways, but
Yeah, but yes, it's fine. You should talk about this stuff and try to reduce your unnecessary harm footprint while you're alive. But you have to be you know recognize the truth that it's all unnecessary suffering, and life sentient is negative, and let's find a graceful exit.